All right, so we are back at it. It's your boy Kamal Hart on the chart, and we're gonna go bar by bar. Been on a little bit of a hiatus from YouTube. We're still trading, but been trying to find the time to do the videos. That's been a little tough. But what we're gonna do from here is probably just the first hour to the hour and a half from the open, as opposed to the full day. It gets a little hard to do the full day, so just a little heads up. Um, but let's jump into it, man. I ain't got much to say. Walking up on the pre-market, it's 607. I'm gonna put my highs up here. It's obviously a range. And for my lows, it's a little tricky. I do want to have my lows down here, but that feels more like a failed breakout. I get a little bit more touches here. I'm going to be using this range, and then if we get a major breakout, I'll probably move it down if we get like a second bounce off this area. But I like getting as many touches as possible. Um, so yeah, I'll probably have it there. Um, and then kind of to get us on the right side of this market, if we're coming off this low side, there's a failed second entry long right there once we break above. I'm not in love with it though because it's going right into the EMA. The past two bars are both dojis, but we are coming off the low, so it's aggressive. I don't think I would take that trade, but there are more reasons to take it than not. Um, so I would consider that trade. And if we do break above, okay, so we broke above and we didn't close above. That's not really a good sign. Typically, I like to scratch that trade, but let's see if it plays out. It's starting to kind of, it made a new high, so it's kind of going in our favor. Um, but let's put a little trend on it. So now we'll see if that trend line can hold. Yeah, we got some big buying off that. That probably got a little tight channel that we're working. I like how that's holding. You got another little signal there, but that's not a trade. It's going sideways. Another thing to do to keep yourself on the right side of the trade is I'll probably have a midline just to make sure that I'm like as close to the middle as possible. Let me just get this arrow out. Yeah, that was pretty close. So with this midline, the way I use it is pretty much I want to buy on this side. I want to sell on this side. Even better is if I buy on this side after it touches the low side and selling on this side after a touch of this side. So if I get a little short setup, I'm not just going to sell it like every short setup. I really want to see it touch this side, and then after touching this side, I'll start taking all the short setups I see. So still kind of going sideways, a little micro congestion zone. I don't see anything there. The break above here is a second entry, but that doji isn't a good signal bar. This is a better signal bar. Second entry long. And I actually like that because, see, I'm going long on the low side, which is good. The EMA is right there. You have just enough room to scalp if you're going for a point. I typically go for 2 points. Um, but what I was going to say that I like is that even though I'm going long on this low side, the last extreme we touched was the lows. So that's probably a good buy. I I like this buy more than this buy for sure. So I'd probably take a long there. That one works out pretty easy. Almost get no resistance. Just yeah, straight to the test the highs. Um, so now we're kind of waiting. We're back in that middle. I win it. See like this lower high, the break above, or higher low. Nah, not into it. Definitely not into this. And you can see another little trick that I use to see these congestion zones is this bar is back to back to this bar, and this bar is back to back to that bar. You'd be shocked how many times that becomes like a little micro congestion zone. And see another bar back to back, I would almost just go ahead just so I could make sure I don't do something dumb. Uh, I just put a little micro zone right there, so I know I don't really want to sell the breakouts. And if I get a setup breaking out going long, maybe I can buy that. But I don't want to fool around too much in this area. Don't really get that break below. Your higher low goes nowhere. You're definitely going sideways, so I would just sit on your hands. Here's a it's a second entry short to this low, but to exit the trade, you have to kind of sell the breakout. I'm not into it. I don't really. And the EMA is right there. Once again, you're going short. We haven't even touched this high side yet. I'm good. Uh, it would have worked, and that's kind of a tricky thing, is when you skip out on trades that would have worked. That can kind of put you on tilt a little bit. But the key is just trying to be patient and just wait for your setups. The best setups are gonna be down here and up here. Anything in here, you need to be suspicious of it. What I will do though is if we break out of this area and close below this bar, we're gonna give this a trend line. Uh, Broke below, but we didn't close, so we're just gonna wait. Here's kind of a matching low, but that's a really big bar. I wouldn't buy that. Here's that failed second entry, but once again, it it it's triggering on the high side, so that's not a good sign. And then you don't have enough room to exit before this high. I wouldn't risk. I wouldn't risk this trade. Never triggers, so you would have been fine. So this is kind of like a breakout pullback right here, if you're seeing that. But we're kind of going sideways, so really what I'd do, I'd just probably, in fact, instead of moving it down, I'd be really curious to see if you measure this first range, look where that gets you. See where that gets you? So that's usually what I do. If you just take your measured legs and measured moves, or I sometimes call it like a range expansion, that'll get you in the right spot a lot of the time. So really all that happened is the range just moved an equidistance down, and this now is our midline. So we just have a slightly bigger range inside of the overall range. And that's just to help keep us on the right side of the market. So we did get all the way down to these lows. That's good. Uh, Second entry long, but that's not the signal we want. I'd probably want to wait on a higher low unless we get a really clear setup. So like here's that higher low, but it's an engulfing bar. I have very mixed opinions about higher low engulfing bar triggers. These typically fail. I don't want to see it break above. I want to see it match or be slightly underneath and leave a lip. But when it breaks above, I only like that on failed second entries. So personally, I skip these trades. Uh, if you want to take it, it's on you. See how it doesn't go far, it just hits that EMA, reverses. That's pretty consistent with what I've seen when you buy this engulfing higher low pattern. So I would just wait. I think I moved this off. Just kind of going sideways here at the lows, but we're trying to get long. So if we get a setup, we're gonna take it. Here's another higher low. This is kind of what we're talking about, though. It doesn't break above; it matches it. That's a little better, but I don't want to buy into the EMA, and it's a little sideways. It's not so obvious though, but it's a little sideways. I'd probably I don't like that. And once again, you get stopped. And that's the thing, like, so, because we got to be real, like, if you take this trade and then you take this trade and then you kind of hit two losses, you might want to be sizing down or maybe taking a break or, waiting for the price action to get a little bit more clear. And that's always my rule of thumb. If I feel like the price action is unclear, I just don't trade it, like, because when you do this long enough, you'll see the right trades. Like the right trades will be so freaking obvious that you don't have to guess. Like, oh, is this kind of maybe? It'll be obvious. So we're good. We're just now you can see pretty clearly we're just going sideways. This is a lot easier to see that it's just kind of like sideways. See how we get this little failed break lower? It went lower and then closed above. That's a good sign. And then another failed break lower, still closed above. Um, the bar is red, but this is bullish. And then if you look, this is a second entry long. First entry, second entry. We have plenty of room to the EMA, so I like that. We are literally at the lows. This is probably the best trade. I actually took this trade, so I already was anticipating this one, but there's a lot of reasons why this is a good trade. And then let's even let's just like really do our due diligence. We were talking about how this is kind of like going sideways. It's like a range inside of the bigger range. Look at the type of setup. This is what I mean by the right setups are obvious. If this is our range, right? We got that second entry long, and then we got a failed breakout of the range. So we would expect prices to come test this high side at 33.8875. So like I have like 3 levels of confluence giving me a signal right here. So this is a trade that you know, you just take that trade. Whatever your maximum risk or your, fully loaded clip is, I'd load up on this trade. And then really I'd have my scalp target. I'd have I typically like when I load up, I might do 3 or 4 contracts. So I'd have my scalp targets somewhere here in the middle of the because I go for 2 points, not 1 point. Um, that's just kind of based off of your discretion if you want to go for 2 or 1. I wouldn't go much past 2 points though. Truthfully, um, it's a little bit unpredictable after 2 points. But my scalps would be here, and then my runner, man, I have that runner up here, just waiting to see if we're going to come to this high side. It's a great setup. This is what you're looking for. If you could just take trades like this only, one trade like this, really one trade like this a week, I mean, I swear you do a lot better. Um, I'm talking like I know because I literally took this trade, so I do know what happens, but I'm going to try to explain everything that I see along the way. So I was still in this thing. Then I got my scalp right there. So the tricky thing though is if we get that higher low, I need to be a little bit cautious because we're still kind of messing with this little congestion zone. So I wouldn't want to take a higher low that requires me to exit above this area because you'd be kind of like buying the breakout or needing a breakout to exit. That's not going to be safe. So we got to kind of just see. If you didn't get in down here, it might be a little tough to enter. Like this broke above, but that's not even a higher low. So if we break above here, you're gonna get a higher low. That's your higher low. That's back to what I was saying about the engulfing bar higher lows. I don't trust those. So this is an engulfing bar higher low. I don't trust that. And it's literally a breakout of this congestion zone. It's a minor congestion zone compared to the overall range. So expectations are that we will eventually break out. I don't know when. So I wouldn't really put my risk here. Um, then you get that matching low. This is a second entry long. I kind of like this, but we still need that breakout. That's what makes it a little bit suspect. Uh, but I would I would feel better about this trade. But I still wasn't comfortable adding on here because we're still going kind of sideways. This bar inside of that bar, inside of that bar, and we got a doji. It's really sideways. It's risky. And look what happens. It literally breaks above and then stops you out. So, and that happens. I mean, it happens. It is what it is. Um, no trade here. It's like a third entry. It's not really a setup in the system that I use with price action trading. Um, So I don't. That's not really a setup. But what we did get is a new low from these recent lows. So I'm going to start my count again off here. So I might be looking, if we get above and get a higher low before we get past this midline, I'll probably want to buy it. So like right here, this is your higher low, and it's a second entry long. It's a breakout, but if you really pay attention, um, the trade triggers above the range. It triggers right here. I feel more comfortable taking this trade. So I would say that this is an aggressive trade. This is definitely aggressive. But I see a couple reasons to like this trade. Boom, takes off, and then once again, like if you had your runners, I'll be truthful. My runner actually got stopped out when it broke right there because I had a stop. I had a stop order at 33.86.75. So I got stopped out break even plus 2. Once I saw these double bottoms, I knew that if we break below, I'll probably hit my break even as well. So I got break even plus 2. I had my runner stop just like right there. But so I didn't get the runner on this trade, unfortunately. But if you take this trade, I definitely am still trying to hold this runner up there. And then what might happen is that, so since we're counting off this low, we still have a failed second entry trade that we're waiting on. But we got to see where that sets up. I'm not going to be as into it if it sets up on this high side. So hopefully it sets up on this low side somehow without stopping you out down here. So here it goes. If it breaks above, that's going to be the trade. I don't like how this bar is inside of this bar, which is inside of this bar on a very, like I said, small scale. That's just micro congestion. That's just like there's like a little range right there. And so basically I don't really want to buy a breakout. If we can get a little bit lower, I'll still buy it, but I don't want to buy it here. And it goes without me. So, I don't know, it happens. If you were holding this trade though, probably got your runner if your runner wasn't at break even. It's just one of those days. And on range days, you shouldn't really be expecting. You should be expecting runners, but you should also not be surprised when they get stopped out because it tends to chop back and forth. And if your runner's at break even, it probably gets stopped out. I've noticed though, if your runner is like, if you leave your runner underneath your stop, like where your stop should be, if it's a good setup and a good trade, I mean, like if my stop was down here, I never would have got hit, and I could have just moved it under each low. But if you move your runner stop to break even +1, they typically get stopped out. So something to keep in mind. What I would do too is, especially when we make this reversal pattern, there's a trend. I could have seen the trend a little bit sooner. There was one right there, and then we had a break, move to a new high. And there's a slightly broader one right here. And I'd be using this on the way up. So if I have a runner, I'm trying to exit on this side of the channel. And then the best case scenario is that we just blast right through it, and I can get an exit at 33.93. See how we get that resistance? That's a good sign that the channel is valid. The channel was really valid once we got the 3 touches, but I like to see that on the high side it's also showing some sort of interaction, or it's respecting the level. That's a good sign. Once again, just another little sideways micro congestion zone thing. I don't want to buy up here. I really want to sell once we make it to this high side. So I'm pretty much just going to sit on my hands until we get something that I can use. This is the first breakout side of this this trend. On range days, we don't always test the highs. So gotta be mindful, but I'm still not looking to go short until we really get up here, or I get a reversal pattern that hasn't crossed my midline. If I get that reversal pattern, I might start looking for shorts. Um, but until then, I'm just trying to stay out of the market. That was that higher low, but it didn't even close below. That higher low went right into the EMA. That wasn't a good short. But here's a second entry long. It's the first break of this trend channel. Um, this is an aggressive target, but potentially this is like a leg one. There could be a leg two up here, but I have really mixed feelings about buying right there. Um, I think it's just super, super aggressive to buy there. So I would skip it, but I think if you wanted to be aggressive, let's see, 91.50. Nah, I would not. I would not. If you're going for 1 point, maybe 92.50. That's just the highs. If you're going for a 1 point scalp, it's aggressive, but I could see why. But like the way I trade, nah, I wouldn't expect a break above, or that's not a good trade. And then see how it breaks above, then closes. It doesn't close above. When this happens, I like to exit. I like to scratch those trades because, or I'm sorry, I wouldn't. This is just a second entry. I thought it was a failed second entry. This is just a second entry. I would just wait to see what happens. It doesn't look good, but I would just wait. It tests your stop, but your stop should be one tick below, so it doesn't hit your stop yet, and I don't know if it will. I was done after this trade. I was done. I don't really remember what happened from here, but you can see how sideways we're going. I wouldn't even really be looking to trade that. I'm seeing a couple setups, right? Like right here, that's our failed second entry long or short, right there. Once we break above, but it's so sideways. I wouldn't. I don't know. I don't think that's where you want to be looking for a trade. Um, and then if you also kind of treat this as a congestion zone, your midline is like here. Yeah, so you're like right at your midline. So that's just up to your discretion if you want to take that. But I'm good. So it gets a little bit, and it only gets like a tick above, and that's what we're. Two things. You shouldn't be surprised with this, right? Because we had this trend. We had a break outside. We hit the EMA. We made a new high by a tick, and we reversed. That's pretty much what you would expect. Now let's see if you got enough for a scalp. 4 tick fail. 4 tick fail. So yeah, it's just you don't want to be going long up here. You want to try to get short, and let's see if we can get that. I'm only going to go for about another 10 minutes. It's already 7:54, so I would already be kind of wrapping it up. Um, there's a little trend right there. Actually, what we're going to do, we're not going to use that trend. Let's just use this range. This range is going to be better. So what we want to see is we want to see if this price continues to move lower. I want to see a breakout pullback, and then I'll give it a trend. But until then, I'm really just expecting it to come back into this range and keep ranging until I see something. See how even though that was a really big breakout, you see how quickly it snapped right back into the range and then even kept going. So that's what I mean by like I don't really give it a trend until we get a breakout pullback underneath the range, and then I'll give it a trend. But until then, I'm really just expecting it to snap back into the range. And that's the shitty thing, right? Because you would have bought this trade or any one of these trades thinking, hey, we're going to test this high side or maybe the highs, and it goes a little bit, stops you out, and then goes to where you thought it might. And that's why it's just super risky. But now that we're up here, I want to start looking for shorts. This isn't quite the short I want yet. I want to get a lower high or a second entry short or like a failed second entry long. That's a really big bar. Dang. Um, Actually, let's not talk about that. There's an aggressive failed breakout. You could fade this, but this signal bar isn't great. I wouldn't have faded that. I think when I see this big red bar, I'm like, oh yeah, you could have faded that. But real time, I don't really think yeah, that's too aggressive. So really, this range is just getting bigger. But I like keeping my range where it is for now until I get that breakout pullback. See, on this, we went lower, but we didn't close lower, so that's not a breakout pullback. And ironically, there's actually a failed second entry long. It's too messy. I think the depends on which way this doji, which way it broke first. If the doji broke down, then up, there would be a failed second entry. If it broke up, then down, and came back, it's just kind of messy. I wouldn't really deal with it. Here's a second entry short, but it's just so sideways. I wouldn't trust that. And it's an inside bar. It's inside of this bar, which is inside of this bar. So it's not a good setup. Looks like it might have worked. 33.90, 75, 33.89, 50. You would have got your scalp. Doesn't give you much more though, right? You can see how sideways it's going. So that's basically 8:20. That's a good 2 hours from the open. Yeah, so pretty much today the best trades were longs. We didn't really get too many short setups. Um, we're not going to do the full day, but I just wanted to explain some of these key areas and how to kind of navigate, especially on these range days. I mean, these days are to this day. I still, if I don't show up to my desk really focused, you can have a lot of problems on these range days. So the key is less is more. Less is more. Really wait for an extreme and then try to get your trade. Like even here, right? Like if you would have just waited for this touch, like this isn't a great trade, but you could have just waited and still gotten a good scalp. But if you're trying to short up here prematurely, you're trying to buy up here, you're getting stopped out both ways and stuff. But if you just wait for a touch, sell, low signal, sell, a touch with a signal, buy, that's always going to be your best bet. So just so we can see how the day is going, we haven't quite closed yet, but um, you can just see what's going on at least. And so you can see how it's still just working this range. You get a little breakout, comes back inside the breakout area. I think this is interesting that if you move this arrow down, like it's really close to a measured move, really close to that measured move. So you could have anticipated the fade and the lower high setups up here and stuff. But that's pretty much it. I hope this is helpful. And I'm not really sure when I'm gonna do another video. Maybe I'll do another video like on Friday or something. But until then, Kamal Hart is signing out. See ya.